Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. Before we get going, you can see I have finally gotten my movie palette hung up there. I really love it. If you don't know, that is The Empire Strikes Back. Every single scene, if you take its average color, width of the lines is based on the scene length, and it is chronologically across the board. My palette is really, really cool. If you think that's dope, there's tons of movies on there. I think you can even request to have movies done now. And if you want, you can get 15% off with my code SITDOWN15 over at moviepalettes.com, and then you can get you could say it's my movie palette for yourself. But I digress. Check that out down below if you're interested. I think it's a really nice addition to my wall. But now I want to focus on a movie that I was very excited when it got announced. I was even more excited when Daniel Radcliffe got cast, even though he doesn't necessarily look like the character he's supposed to portray. He's someone who's done a lot of really interesting things in the world of films since doing Harry Potter, and this was a character portrayal that I was really psyched to see, and I was very satisfied watching. And yeah, this is just one I was really, really pumped for, and it gave me something that I wasn't really necessarily expecting because I never watched the trailer. So when I watched the movie, I was like, oh, this is just pure genius coming from the king of parodies. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat? We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler-free, into Weird, the Al Yankovic Story. And like I said, man, this was a movie that I was excited for because the idea of a Weird Al Yankovic biopic could be a lot of fun. As someone who grew up with Weird Al and all of the crazy, he started when I was like real little. But I grew up, in a world where all of his crazy adaptations of different music was very, very prevalent in just the world. And, my cousins were huge Weird Al fans. So anytime we were over there, there's a real good chance you'd hear, some of his different stuff. I remember specifically when he did, what was the name of that Coolio's song? Where he did it was like an Amish spin on what was it, an Amish Paradise instead of Gangsters in Paradise, something like that. Absolutely hysterical. Like, it was just one of those things where, as a character, being kind of adjacent to it and aware and sort of around for a little bit of Weird Al when he was kind of like big, the idea of seeing like a full story on him was exciting for me. And like I said, Daniel Radcliffe is a character actor that I adore. I mean, this is a guy who, very easily could have flamed out of movies after Harry Potter. You see a lot of child actors get that huge franchise or something like that, or where they're really, really active as kids and then not so much as adults. And it's one of those where he didn't get typecast or stuck because he went out and did weird things. And I thought Weird Al was a perfect kind of progression to things that we've seen him do. Because he's an actor who's just willing to give it a go, and he puts 100% in every time he's out there. And this is a performance from Radcliffe that you really do feel how much energy he's putting in, specifically because you're not hearing him. One of the cool things about the movie, while I would have loved to have heard Radcliffe sing, and I believe he did sing when he auditioned, the movie allowed Weird Al to go in and re-record all his songs so that Radcliffe could kind of lip sync. But obviously, I would imagine in the performance when they're shooting, it's Radcliffe singing, and you can physically see it, like in his neck and in his arms, like how much he's putting in specifically around the performances. And he really, for me, captures everything I wanted to capture from Weird Al. I mean, he gets that energy, he gets that playfulness. He's really excellent at balancing the humor with any of the dramatic beats that are needed. And the thing, though, that really makes this movie work for me, beyond just Radcliffe nailing it, is the approach to the movie in and of itself. Now, apparently this was originally, or the idea of this kind of spun out from a Funny or Die skit, which featured Weird Al. I believe he reprises that role in the movie alongside, who is it? He's alongside Will Forte. excellent scene. Like, they have one big scene that's absolutely hysterical, and then they have one additional one where they pop in. But the two of them together, great in the movie. But apparently, it was a skit on Funny or Die. I've never seen it, so maybe I'll watch it and react to it. But that's kind of what the impetus was. And I believe Weird Al went and got the writer and the director from that, Eric Appel, who actually is a halfway decent comedic director. He's been he's episode did a bunch of stuff for Son of Zorn, which is a show that I personally kind of really thoroughly enjoyed. Same with Die Hard. He's worked on Silicon Valley, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, New Girl. I mean, this is a guy who's done TV quite well. And this type of movie, right, especially being made for a streaming service like Roku, for the Roku channel, I think it really fit what Appel was going after, and it was, I think, a logical step, like one that didn't feel like it was out of his depth, and he really provided, I think, a creator that understands Weird Al, how he thinks, how to portray him, and how to contain the zany and the wildness to this story, because what him and Al come up with is a parody on Weird Al's life. I would say 80 to 90% of this movie has got to be fictional. And that is the genius of weird. It is exactly as weird and out there as it should be for an Al Yankovic story. And being the king of music parodies, I mean, the Weird Al bump was a real thing. Like, I want to say it was Nirvana. He had, when he covered one of their songs, it got like a humongous boost to sales for the actual song. So to kind of like build some of those real life things into a world that's totally fictional, and is just a parody of the biopic movie, I would say that this really lines up quite well with the Dewey Cox story. Like, that is a biopic, specifically music biopic parody, and that's what the Weird Al Yankovic story is doing. Like, it's a parody of the music biopic while also being a parody of Weird Al's life. And that type of comedy and zaniness just sets up so many wonderful things, specifically for Radcliffe, but also from the cast. Diedrich Bader gets to be our narrator, who anytime he pops up, and he does wonderful voice work in general, he's always excellent. But then, like, a celebrity cast list as well as a character list of cameos. That's wild, man. The people, and specifically the characters that pop up in here, fantastic, and how they work inside of Weird Al's world is just wonderful. And the only one that I'll point out, because this is a spoiler-free review, is Rainn Wilson's character. I would imagine in the trailer he would have been pretty prevalent, but he plays Dr. Demento, who was a big inspiration for Al and someone who was very involved in his early career, I believe. And that his character and portrayal in the movie is really wonderful. But my favorite thing, not just with Dr. Demento, but was, my mom and dad obviously would have been very aware of Weird Al when they were coming up. And you see this cameo smorgasbord. It's like one scene where you see all of them. My mom was just sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, that's that. Oh my gosh, is that Oh my gosh." Like, it was so much fun for me to see her reacting to all these characters that pop up in the movie. Some of which I was very familiar with, some of which I wasn't. But I thought Rainn Wilson did an excellent job, and where he plays into the Weird Al story in the context of the movie, I think is right in Rainn Wilson's wheelhouse. But if I'm being honest, right, like, outside of Wilson, and then this cameo smorgasbord, right? Like I said, I'm not going to spoil people who pop up, but there's one or two in particular where I was just like, and my mom, like I said, my mom loving that stuff. But the only other character besides Al and performance besides Radcliffe's that's worth talking about is one of my favorite elements of fiction in this. And that's Evan Rachel Wood's performance as Madonna. She is phenomenal. And in reality, I think, spoilers, Weird Al in an interview said he met Madonna once, and they spoke like on the phone, I think, for like 45 seconds, and that pretty much encapsulated his entire real life interaction and relationship with Madonna. But in the movie, she basically plays his main love interest for the whole film, and Evan Rachel Wood is spectacular, and not only capturing the essence of Madonna while she's on screen, but leaning into the satire and just the comedic things, like the way that Madonna is used and how she kind of uses Weird Al in the relationship to try to get a bump herself. Like those were the elements of the movie that really, really worked. And Wood's performance specifically off of Radcliffe is just sublime. The whole freaking movie, man. Like it's one of these things where if you're here for a satire and for a parody on a human's life, because that person is like the king of music parodies. To have a parody music biopic about Weird Al Yankovic that comes from the mind of Weird Al Yankovic, it's just genius. And if you're a fan of Weird Al, you should love the ever loving crap out of this movie. It's so freaking good. And if you're not a Weird Al fan, I think just from a comedy standpoint, there's a lot of wonderful stuff to take away. The story really works as far as like hyper realizing, Weird Al's story in a way that is suitable for the big screen. Like what you get in this story makes sense for a biopic on the big screen. And again, like I said, the fact that it's a parody on his own life is just pure genius, and it allows the movie to have so many surprises and twists and turns while nailing every single beat that you need in a music biopic. So let's get the C Maniacs up. As I said, I think that Eric Appel, who worked on the original bit for Funny or Die, and has done some really strong stuff on the television side, does a fantastic job behind the camera and capturing just the zaniness of Weird Al's life. And when you add in being able to work with Weird Al directly on the script, parodying the man's life, it's just perfect. Like it's if you're a Weird Al fan, you can't be mad with this movie because it's coming from his mind, and it completely encapsulates like his career and his bio, but in a way that allows you to parody the music biopic. And it sets up your cast, specifically Daniel Radcliffe and Evan Rachel Wood, to do phenomenal work, like just throughout. Even though Weird Al is singing, and I love that he got to re-record all of his songs, just to watch Radcliffe nail it. Even though, like, my mom kept going, she's like, but the blue eyes, man. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, Radcliffe is killing it right now. It's just wonderful. Like I said, the relationship that he has with Evan Rachel Wood's Madonna and how that's utilized throughout the course of the movie. It's just, it really nailed exactly what I think it was going for. So for me, I'm going 4 out of 5. I thought this was a fantastic parody. It's a great comedy. If you are unfamiliar with Weird Al, I think it's a cool way to dip your toe into that world, because he really has a conceptual idea of his own life that I think, kind of puts you closer to Dewey Cox than, say, like an actual biopic. And that stuff just worked brilliantly, and I think fits perfectly for the character that you had. And like I said, Radcliffe, as always, knocks it out of the ballpark. So 4 out of 5 C-Maniacs for the C-Man. Now it's your turn. I want to know what you're thinking. If you popped over to the Roku channel to check out Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, what'd you think? If you're a Weird Al fan, did it hit all the things that you would have wanted in a Weird Al parody bio? And if you're not, I'm really interested to see, like, would you have preferred, like, a real biopic on Weird Al, or do you get... Did watching the movie, did you know what was going on, or did you think that, like, a lot of this stuff was real? And if you did get what was going on, do you think it works to parody his own life as a parody genius himself? Anything you got, man, on Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, good, bad, indifferent, put it down below in the comment section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer reactions. We've got a bunch of trailers that you're going to see popping up throughout the course of the week. You want to be here to see me talk about those things, maybe react to some other things. You just dig the vibe, you want to show a little love and support to the old C-Man, well, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation, where you can do all those things and hang out with a pretty cool group of people, my personal opinion. And you can do that by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, from C-Man Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got 2 video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.